Hey everybody, this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger, and welcome once again. Thanks for coming back to see my weekly Uncopyable Ramblings video that I put out. I guess weekly is what I do, right? That's what I do. It's interesting because this time of year, those of you that are watching it this week, live this week, or the week that I'm putting this up, you know that we are in the 2016 election season, the general election. We're electing a new president this year, and it'll be in less than 30 days. We will find out whether we have President Hillary or we have President Donald. And I was watching the debate last night, and I'm not going to get into any of this conversation about who to vote for or anything like that. This is quite a contentious election. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But it did occur to me while I was watching this that, this is a great example. Watching the campaigns of the two candidates is a great example of marketing. And when I talk about, the marketing diamond, if you have not watched the marketing diamond, then or don't know about the marketing diamond, let me know, and maybe I'll do a session about that pretty soon. But essentially what we're talking about in the marketing diamond is, number one, is we need to know who our market is. Number two is we need to determine what is the message to match our market so that our market is going to pay attention to us. Number three is then what type of media do we use to communicate our message to our market. And then number four is what I call the moment, which essentially means is that we want to, at the moment that the prospect or the lead is making a decision to buy something or to choose something, that they choose us, okay? So think about this for a second, that the two candidates, if we look at Hillary as being from the Democratic Party, which is traditionally considered to be the liberal party, and Donald's from or Trump is from the Republican Party, which is traditionally considered to be the conservative party. If we look at, when I talk about hunting moose, that you need to know who your market is, and that hunting moose is very, very important. You need to identify who your moose are and then come up with a message. You need to come up with moose bait, a moose message, get into the moose's mind to be able to communicate with them. Now, these guys have a unique situation, or have a very, very difficult situation. Now, back when they were in the primaries, now if we look at this line that I've got out here, where I'm showing that on one side of the line is the liberal side, on the other side of the line is the conservative side, and we'll say that that's the extreme liberal to the extreme conservative, and then in the middle we have the moderates, and maybe even considered today to be the uncommitteds, the people who still have not decided who they're going to vote for. Now, during the primary season, each one of the candidates can actually focus much, much more on their own moose. So let's say, for example, that Hillary is actually focusing on bear. She's hunting bear. And the bear are actually much closer to being liberal than they are to being conservative. And Donald, on the other side, let's say he is hunting, beaver. And the beaver that he is hunting are much more on the conservative side. Now, when they are in the primaries, the only thing they have to win are the people on their side of the line, from the middle to the side that is theirs. So from the let's say the half that Hillary is on, the liberal half, she can focus her message on that, even to the point where she's even a little bit farther to the liberal side than she normally would be. So she can really, really focus her message on the bear that are out there. She can talk to them, and she can send very, very specific messages to them. Donald Trump, was able to do the same thing on his side of the line. So in the primaries, they're able to both send very, very specific messages to the people who are on that side of the line. And that's why the two of them were able to go through the primary process and actually kind of steamroll their way through. I mean, even though there was supposedly some kind of competition, with Bernie Sanders, with Hillary. The fact is that Hillary, beat him soundly. Okay, so there was no real big. It wasn't like it was going down to the wire or something like that. It was very clear, at a certain point that she was going to win the election, the candidacy for the Democratic Party, and that Trump did kind of the same thing. He kind of steamrolled through, surprised everybody, but he steamrolled through. So they were able to make those messages very, very focused on their target audience. But you see, now in the general election, they both need to move a little bit more to the middle. That's what they need to do, because they need to start to attract those people that are more in the center, who are uncommitted. Those are the people who are going to make the difference in the election. So the problem they now face is that they had messaging that was very, very specific to their target in the primaries, and they made their target very, very happy. Now they have to muddle that message by going after people who are more in the middle. Now, what does that do? Well, it can kind of confuse people, right? That people can, the people who were happy with them over here on this side, either on this side or this side of the line, well, now that the messaging is kind of going more into the center in the general election, you can alienate people who have been supporting you and make them very unhappy. And, and then you can try to be messaging to these people, in the center, but they can say, wait a minute, you weren't messaging to me before, so why should I pay attention to you now? Now, think about this from a marketing perspective. I mean, it is marketing. There's no question about it, because they're trying to match the message to the market. But because they are now trying to attract a whole bunch of new animals, maybe in the middle of maybe my moose are right down the middle. Maybe that's who the moose are. Well, both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are trying to attract the uncommitted moose to their side, to vote for them. And that's very, very difficult to do when they've already had a message that maybe the moose didn't really care for. So you see, in business, it's kind of the same thing. And that's why I really stress that you want to understand who your target is. If you try to be all things to all people, if you try to say, well, everybody can buy our stuff, well, you're probably making a big mistake. You're probably going to be having trouble communicating with the market out there, because everybody wants a different message. Think about it from the general election. Women want a certain message. Mexicans want a certain message. The LGBT community wants a certain message. Single white males want a certain message. Millennials want a certain message. And it's very, very difficult for the candidates to send out messages that make everybody happy. And the same thing applies in marketing. If you are trying to send out messages that make everybody happy, you're probably making no one happy. And so the lesson is, you really, really need to focus on your moose, regardless of where they are on the spectrum, but you pick out your moose and you match the message to them, and do the very, very best you can to go after them. And really, you probably don't want to spend a lot of time worrying about the rest of the animals in the forest, unless you're able to do very specific messaging to them as well. You can't do a generalized message and expect everybody to be paying attention to you. So I hope that makes sense today, to focus on your moose and using the election. We'll see who gets elected later on. And thanks again for watching. If these messages resonate with you, I appreciate if you share them. Email me, of course, let me know what you think. And don't holler at me about who to vote for, because I'm not talking about that. And I hope you share this with everybody. Comment wherever you see this, and I appreciate you very much. And I hope to see you again next week. This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, and marketing gunslinger. And always remember, be uncopyable.